Okie dokie, folks. This is Kyle Shaw, aka the Canadian Goose, and I want to thank each and every one of you guys for tuning in and checking out the podcast today, Monday Night Shaw. I am here today with Dash from Dash. Is it just Dash, or is it Dash in the Park? Um,
I guess I became Dash in the Park through the heavy hockey gig that I have, and that's like the podcasting name, I guess, that kind of became an organic thing. I don't know, it wasn't on purpose, but yeah, so that's what I go by. But I mean, that's really a mouthful for anything in wrestling, so we like to keep
okay,
it
I've
simple, right?
also heard
So
Matt Slaps. Is that you?
oh, we're gonna go down that path? Yeah, well, you maybe have been in a locker room with Matt Slaps before. He's my twin brother or something like that.
Okie dokie. Well, I thank you for jumping on the podcast here, buddy. I really appreciate it. I know we've had a little bit of trouble like coordinating and setting all this up and whatnot. That's just as much on me as it is on
It's
you.
nice of you to put
Uh,
it that way, because I absolutely fell asleep on you last night and then was late today. So you're a kind soul, but I'll
Oh
take
no,
that.
I literally just woke up and was like, because was falling asleep earlier and was like, oh, I better set an alarm. And then sure enough, like 5 minutes before we got on here, the alarm went off, and I was like, huh, what? Oh yeah, the podcast. Okay, cool. All right, yeah. So
Well,
I'm
half
I'm very
sleepy goose
happy
is
to.
better than no goose.
Yes, yes. I'm good to go though. I'm happy to be here. Thank you for joining me. Um, and how are things?
Pleasure to be here. It's always awesome to talk to you. I think I share a windshield with you on the road a lot, so I'm assuming this conversation will probably really just be an extension of that, and I enjoy all those conversations too. So, good. I'm tired like you are. We've had a busy schedule this month, and we're living a real life as well. So it's been busy. I'm tired, but it's really good. It's good. We're living the life.
Mm, yeah. I wanted to have you. I mean I listened to your podcast with Blair from Grainmaker. And then I was like, "Oh, I should have Dash on my show as well." I could tell you this will probably be less conversation about legitimate sports, um, because I really know nothing about hockey or football or anything like that. The only sport I have any kind of knowledge about is professional wrestling. So, uh,
Hey, there's nothing wrong with that. We share a passion there. You know what? I always like Thad's line of when he says, "I don't like hockey, or I don't watch any of that stuff. I just like fabricated sports like pro wrestling and soccer."
yeah, yeah, fair enough. Like I do know that the Edmonton Oilers, they just defeated the Vancouver Canucks in the playoffs there, and I don't mean to hurt anyone's feelings here, but like I grew up living in Victoria, so the Vancouver Canucks would probably be my team if I had to have
Yeah,
one. Uh,
yeah. If
but
one
you
was
you
fed to you,
yeah, you have a whole hockey podcast and stuff. Is that how you ended up getting involved in LPW and in wrestling in general?
yeah, I think it's linked for sure, loosely linked. So, you know what? Like, I'm pretty narrowly focused on hockey. I'm not a big, huge sports guy outside of that. I enjoy watching anything that's entertaining. If that
Mhm.
makes sense. And I think that probably is what can be said about most pro wrestling fans too, right? I think that anybody that's involved in the sport of pro wrestling, or is a pro wrestling fan or diehard, that's never given it up and still watches as an adult, you have some sort of, I don't know, empathic ability to like really feel that energy, from being in the crowd, whether it's being in being marking out in a crowd and screaming and singing to your favorite wrestler song, or whether you it's like the Canadian Goose in the ring and honking along and getting 400 people doing it behind you, right? Like, you feed off that energy and you can feel that energy, and it's just fun. So I think any sporting event is fun, really. Like, whether it's, you could stick me in a NBA game or a whatever, it doesn't matter, a soccer game in Europe or a rugby game, and I'll enjoy it all if it's, entertaining and the crowd's into it and whatever. So like hockey's my passion, and pro wrestling's another passion, and those are really where the two end as far as passions go, right? Like other than outside of my real
Mhm.
life. So yeah, like I got into pro wrestling late in life, and how are they linked? Yeah, so I've got my own podcast, and we are also on the radio on Edmonton Sports Talk, and have a weekly show on there. I also do some spot hits on Edmonton Sports Talk and Sports 1440, and in fact, I'm doing one tomorrow with Matthew Awanek on the Hangout from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. and
Is that
talking
Squid's son?
whatever. No, Matthew Awanek
No?
is on. He's the producer at Edmonton Sports Talk, and does
Okay.
the
Just
yeah.
kidding. I knew
It sounds a lot like a wash chuck for sure.
Yeah.
So one of those Ukrainian Stevens, or Matthews.
Mhm.
So no, yeah, doing a radio show tomorrow. And how did that connect? Well, our boss, Spencer Love, a lot of people know his shoot job is with the Sherwood Park Crusaders. My name is Dash in the Park on the radio because I am Dash from Sherwood Park. My shoot name is Mike, and I got a
I
commentary
did
partner with
not
the
know
same.
that. I had no
Yeah, well,
idea.
we keep that pretty quiet. There's about 7 of us in love pro wrestling, to be honest. I don't know if you can name them all, but
Yeah, there's a
yeah,
lot of Michaels for sure.
yeah, for sure. And one of them's my commentary partner, right? So like I can't be we can't be Mike and Mike on the mic, that just
Yeah,
confuses
Mike and
people.
Mike on the mic at ringside. Yeah, yeah.
So no, I got to know Spencer through being a season ticket holder for the Sherwood Park Crusaders. I'm not gonna lie, I knew who he was. I had a passion for pro wrestling. I wanted to get involved. Was it a focused conversation or target on my part? Maybe. But we got to know each other pretty quickly, and actually I think still are pretty good friends today. There was a few people at his birthday party, and you and I were 2 of them. So I'd like to think that we're all pretty well trusted and in a good tight group of friends there, and I cherish that. But yeah, at the beginning it was more or less like I just asked him if I could take him out for a beer, and Spencer, he'll have a beer with almost anybody. So
Mhm. Yes, he does like beer.
I yeah, absolutely. And talking, if you
Yeah.
can imagine that, right? So and networking and right. So, and all of that's connected,
Spencer is
and
like like he's really approachable, you know?
super approachable. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, from the right way, as long as you're, on a par, I think. And most people are. He's really forgiving. He gives a lot of people second, third chances. And, we all make mistakes. And I'd like to think that I wouldn't be in this business if it wasn't for Spencer. So I owe him everything, really. But during that beer, I just kind of shot my shot, Goose. I just, I always wanted to, we all want to be in the ring. Everybody that's a fan has probably that dream of being in the ring. I've heard you tell your story, right? It happened to you in
Yeah.
Victoria. The promotion came by, you started sticking your nose in there. What can I do? And man, is that any different than what I did at LPW, Goose? Like while you were injured and ring announcing, I was picking up gear and volunteering for ring crew and doing anything I could to, earn respect or try to get your foot in the door and earn your way if you can, or, earn your keep. But that night with Spencer was just, I don't think I can ever get in the ring at my age. I know you're recently 40 and my age starts with a 4 as well, but it's a little late in my life to start. So I kind of just decided if I was going to get into it, I would try to maybe get a reffing background or something like that. That would get me between the ropes and in the ring someday. But to get involved immediately, I just said to Spencer one night, you've got a whole bunch of people with decades of experience in the ring, but you got very few people that have 20 years experience on a mic. And he just
Yeah.
stopped him in his tracks, and he said, you know what? Like, that's what Thursday's all about. I'll give you a shot.
Yeah, why not? What's he got to lose,
Right.
right?
Yeah. Well, and I got one match, and then Boris asked if I wanted to stick around for the night. So I got the night, and then I realized that was an honor, and that not everybody gets to stick around for a night
Yeah,
with
no,
Boris.
I did one, I believe, the second LPW show, I did one match on commentary as well, and I've never done one since.
Well, I haven't heard any anything bad, but
No,
I
no,
have
Boris is
already
yeah, I think me and Boris
yeah,
are cool. I just,
of course.
I don't know, just not my calling or whatnot, but, I'm much happier to be actually, like, wrestling anyway. Like,
Yeah.
I just finished doing like, a little tour for Wild Rose Sports Association, and they were like, "Oh, well, we're full for wrestlers, but if you wanna come and ring announce, you can do that," and like, I was like, "Okay, well, my choices are, don't do that and don't get paid, or go and do that and
Yeah.
get paid and get to hang out at a wrestling show and stuff." So
Yeah.
that's what I did. I went and I did the ring announcing, and, like, I've done a lot of ring announcing, so I was probably definitely the most qualified person in those buildings to be doing the ring announcing.
Oh, you're
Um,
awesome. Yeah.
but yeah, no, there was a part of me that was like, oh, I was bummed out because I just wanted to wrestle instead. And so now,
Right.
like, it's just one of those things where, like, I'm not going to take it for granted. I absolutely love
Yeah.
wrestling, and that's what I want to do, and whatnot. So, I've actually, like, I've seen you down at the training center, at Clandestine Wrestling Society a couple of times as well, and I at first, I didn't realize you were just there to, like, learn refereeing, 'cause,
Right.
you were taking part in all the drills and everything, and so, like, I mean, I thought you were gonna, be a wrestler as well, but, it's yeah, no, I lose my,
I'm not saying I won't.
train of
I'm not
thought
like
sometimes,
I'm
but
not
yeah.
ruling it out, right? Like I'd like to. I'd love to. It's been a dream,
Yeah.
right? At my age, I don't know. Um, and like here's the thing is I earn I earned that seat beside Boris. I feel like I did, right? Like I put in a lot of work and I watched the entire Love Pro library and watched hours and hours and hours and hours of Boris's commentary to learn his cadences and to understand where he peaks and how he builds and when he a lot of the time a wrestling event can be a really emotional roller coaster, right? And it's kind of your job in commentary to paint that picture to the crowd at home, right? Like nobody in the arena can hear us.
Mhm.
Nobody that's live can hear us unless you're sitting right beside us. But ultimately, it's those people at home, and we've got to paint that picture of the atmosphere and what's going on, and it's different to have to do that. It's like a different job, but it's still fulfilling because you're helping get the wrestlers over. And Boris taught me very very early that it's not about commentary. Like, it's not
Yeah,
about us
yeah.
bickering and it's not about us trying to get, our little spat over. It's about trying to get the Canadian Goose over in the ring, right? And whatever and however that is. So, that kind of turned into how do I say this? It's not lost on me, Goose, that my first opportunity to do commentary is at what I feel is the best promotion in Alberta and maybe Western Canada, and I get to sit beside a Hall of Famer to do it,
Yeah,
right? Like, I know you're
I
not a
think
hockey guy, but if you want
I
that reference, like, I basically get to step straight into the NHL and do it beside Bob Cole, you know?
I think that, Boris is extremely talented at the commentary. I think he does a really good job all the time. Um, and like you say, like, I appreciate the fact that you realize, like, the job is about putting over the wrestlers. That's why I say, like, when I was at those Wild Rose shows and I was doing the ring announcing, why I'd rather be a wrestler is because, like, I know nobody's coming to this show to watch the ring
To
announcer, you
watch the
know?
refs. Yeah, it's your
Yeah,
job to
and
really just
so
slide in the background, right?
yeah, so, like, I of course, I wanna do a great job, and, like, I'm assuming it's the same for you when you're on, commentary or refereeing and stuff. Of course, you wanna do a
Yeah,
good job, but,
yeah,
like, your job at the end of the day in that sense is always to be a highlight of the other guys, the ones that are,
yeah,
you know, putting their bodies on the line and risking their
that's right.
personal health and stuff. So,
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
I
Very well
can
said.
really appreciate that for sure.
You're the
And then,
talent,
like,
we're the
on the
extras.
other side
You know
of
what I
it,
mean?
as somebody that does wrestle and has had matches where you're one of the commentators and stuff, like, I appreciate that so much as well because, like, I mean, I work for a number of promotions in Alberta, and I've done BC and Manitoba and stuff, and there's not a whole lot of matches where the match happens, and then like a week later, I have a fully produced video with commentary and stuff, and with commentators that you know know who I am and like what the situation is and stuff.
Of
So like
course, and understand the
that's one
storyline
of the
and yeah,
reasons I love wrestling and love wrestling is just because
yeah,
all that comes with it, and it's like I can
yeah,
show those matches to like my friends and stuff, and they'll be like, "Oh, this is like you're actually doing it. It's not just like like a static one shot from the merch table, of us just like
absolutely.
wrestling for 20 minutes, which it can be great, and that's valuable in that you can use it and watch it and review your
For sure.
footage and learn from it, but it's probably not the kind of footage you want to really be like sharing around to your friends and being like, "Hey, check this out," whereas
Yeah,
in LPW, I really like absolutely can't wait to get that footage back every time I have a match
I
there.
know. Yeah, I mean, I'm the same way. We'll have a long night. I'll drive you home at the end of the night 90% of the time, and then I'll go watch the
Yeah,
show
I
again,
usually do
you
get
know?
Dash to drive me home, and he's
And
he's tremendous and he has a very nice car.
thank you. And it's a pleasure. But, like, and all of that is part of, like, I think, I don't want to sit here and say, I think it is the best promotion. I don't want to say our culture's better or our whatever's better, but it's different. It's different
Yeah.
there. And I think that's fair. Um, and I've worked in multiple promotions as well, and I'm treated very well everywhere I go. And I think, we both are. We've been at three different promotions together now, right? Over the short time I've been
I
in the
mean, yeah,
business, but
just in the last like month, I think we've done RCW, we've done CWE, and we done
yeah,
Love.
yeah,
And yeah, I think each and every one of those promotions has its ups and downs. Like for all
right.
the, sometimes people like cast RCW in a negative light, but RCW runs an incredible amount of shows. Like they're literally like
Mhm.
there'll be 8 RCW shows in a month sometimes,
They do
and so as
three to
far as
four
like
times more work than anybody. Yeah,
getting reps, like I really do like wrestling there. And even though I've had my differences with the promoter back in the day, we've set that aside, and I think he understands that I really just want to entertain people to the best of my ability, and so he
yeah,
keeps giving me the opportunity to do that, and
yeah,
I appreciate him a whole lot because he also is the first one that ever gave me an opportunity. And like I
yeah,
say, he's not required to, but he continues to do so. So
yeah,
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 he has
and
all my
likewise, and yeah,
and
nothing but respect from me here. I mean, I've had an excellent experience everywhere I've been. There's not a lot of negativity. I mean, well, I mean, you did have a front row seat to the one bad negative
oh
experience I
yeah, well,
had.
hey man,
We won't
like I
drop
mean,
names there. I don't want
no, I
to.
don't. I'm not gonna name any names, but
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
that's just like a part of I think the business, and that's like I've been chewed out before
yeah,
several
yeah.
times,
And that's what
and
happened.
like
Shoot out
when you're
after
young in
I
it,
rest.
yeah,
And,
yeah, like
yeah,
you
yeah,
were green, and when it
yeah,
happened to me, I was green, and arguably maybe it was a little overboard, and really like the person that did it to you was, maybe took it a little too far, and the person that did it to
yeah,
me, they probably took it a little too far too, but
yeah,
uh all you can do is just, don't take it personally,
yeah,
because there's no
exactly.
point in beating yourself up. What's done is done. But also be like, just like try and use it to motivate yourself. Like I
Yeah,
have said numerous times that I am very grateful to the individual that did that to me. And it's not because like I like the guy or whatever. I think he's kind of a prick, and we're
yeah,
not talking about the guy that reamed me out is not the same guy that reamed you out, but,
that's right. Yeah,
like, you I'm grateful to him because, like,
Me too.
it drove me to wanna be better, and
That's right.
so, like, y you won't find, there isn't a show where I show up at and I'm just like, "Yeah, I just wanna phone it in tonight and, take
Totally.
it easy." Like, that's not I
No.
wanna go and show everybody that I'm gonna work hard and I don't suck. You
We get
know?
100% of the goose every time we get the goose, right? And I'd like to
The
think I have that same reputation too, right? Like I
Yeah.
try, and like tying all this back together, that's why I went to clandestine training, right? Like if I'm
Mhm.
gonna sit there and have that honored position and that honored seat beside Boris and get to be his commentary partner with as my first commentary gig in pro wrestling, like
Mhm.
what? Pinch me
Oh,
sometimes, right? But if I'm gonna
a
get that
lot of
opportunity, well, how can I be a color commentator if I've never been in the ropes?
A lot of the
Right? And
best color commentators are former wrestlers, like, or even
almost all of
wrestlers that
them.
are still actively wrestling, like Jerry Lawler and Taz are 2 ones that I can really think of, Wade
Jesse
Barrett,
Ventura,
Booker
Bobby the
T, yeah,
Brain,
and,
Corey
so
Graves.
I appreciate the fact that you actually came down and was like, "Yeah, I wanna try this out, I wanna feel what it feels like and,
That's right.
give it a
Well, you
go,"
mentioned
and
yeah. You mentioned Taz, right? Like, he commentates a match and he's like, "Well, when you elevate your hips and you pop your hips, you can really get." Well, who am I to be saying that if I've never tried it or done it? Like I'm just a fraud. So, I think part of it was to get down there and meet everybody. And, like we formed a relationship over it. Michael and I have, Zoe and I have, like that training is, it's such a family atmosphere, right? Like everybody really looks after one another. And, you say you appreciate the ride home. I mean, I appreciate what you've done for me. Not only did you look after me at training and show me how to not get back suplexed on my head when my footwork on my headlocks were messed up. But also,
Mhm.
you put my name in there for ring announcing at one of those other promotions that I've worked for too, right? So I
Yeah,
appreciate all of
I
that, and
and
I
that's
appreciate your
all
friendship.
that's all because, like, you can tell, like, Spencer, and I'm not trying to, like, toot my own horn, but he said about me that, like, one of the things I have is give a shit, you know? And
Yeah.
I could tell that you have give a shit. And so, like, you've also like you say, you have 20 years of experience on a microphone. I wasn't, I wasn't aware that you had quite that much experience, but like now that I do, yeah, absolutely would recommend you come and do ring announcing. And like you came and actually ring announced a show in Drumheller a couple of months ago, and I thought you did an absolutely great job. Like, like it was your
Not
first time, so maybe there was a couple of things where
Yeah,
that
I was just gonna say that.
you
Not
could have
without mistakes, but yeah.
yeah, but
And thank
I
you for
th
being there for me because you were the first guy when I
yeah,
came back through Gorilla to put your arm over me and go, you know what, that was awesome, but here's what I do next time. And I appreciate that. And, taking it back to the guy that tore me a new a-hole, that's really all I could say. I'm not going to sit there and tell a booker for one of the biggest promotions in the world that he's wrong.
yeah,
So,
yeah, no,
what do?
like,
You look up and you say, I asked for feedback and that was the feedback I was provided. And I appreciate that feedback and I'm going to use it to get better. Thank you.
yeah, 100%,
You
and,
know?
like, like, literally, like, all you can do, and, like, I have said to people, like, before, like, yeah, like, I was in, training last week, and, MRB and was leading the class, and I did a move on somebody, and I pinned him, and it was kind of like a lackadaisical, like, pin where I was just, like, on them, and he was like, "Look, like, nobody at this level is really gonna call you out or anything." And I was like, "No, let me know. Like, what do I
Hmm.
like, I wanna be good. So, like, tell me what I need to do to improve here." And so, like,
Yeah.
I made an active, like, maybe I didn't do a great job, I don't know, but, like, this past Saturday when I wrestled, KB6 in a match, every time I pinned him, I actively, like, tried to make sure my body weight was on top of him and that, like, if he's gonna kick out, then he's gonna have to work to kick out, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
like, because I have I have a bad habit of just kinda getting on top of the person and then, like, laying there, so, like, this time, no, I was
For
like,
sure.
"Okay," my whole like, lay on them. put your weight on them and make them,
Yeah,
have to push you off. And like, if I just have people go, oh yeah, that was good, when in fact there is room for improvement, it's like, well,
totally.
I appreciate that about MRB too. Is he's not like a dick about it. He could
No.
be, and there is,
Oh,
like I
he's
say,
like
there
the
have been
opposite of
people in
a
the
dick
past
about
that
it.
were,
Yeah. Yeah.
but no, like, I was like, I wanna know what the criticisms are so that I can,
Yeah.
adjust and make sure that they're not repeated criticisms, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I think like MRB is almost the opposite of being a dick about it, to be honest. Like, I don't know if he
Yeah.
could be criticized any nicer, to be honest. But the way
No,
he does it, he's also very like stern and serious about it, right? Like he takes his craft bloody well seriously, and he should because he's one of the best at it. And, I
yeah,
have a
he did.
similar story where I was reffing a match in training. It might have been with your match. No, it was Zoe and Spade.
Mhm,
And I broke character. Like I turned around and I asked him how
mhm.
much time was left. And and at the I knew it. I would obviously never do that in a match or in a real match or anything, but just the
Yeah,
fact that I did it in training, right? It's like one of those things, like practice how you play. And that was a big thing for me, right? Like, okay, like that was a really serious thing. Like I broke a big rule there and I shouldn't have. And you don't think it is in the moment or in the time, but yeah, it
yeah.
was a great experience to learn. And there was a handsome referee in that match, I think, with you in KB6 at your last show.
Yeah, yeah. No, I was really happy that, like, it was you. You were obviously the referee for that match, and I was happy about that because like you say, you are my friend, and I knew it wasn't going to be like a super intensive, uh struggle of a match for you to get through or anything. And I knew that,
For sure.
like, you had this, and you absolutely did, and you did a great job. I mean, there's not a lot of rule breaking when it's two, baby faces.
Yeah, over
uh
baby faces. Yeah, for sure.
yeah,
Well, it's the
but
easiest match I've ever refed. And I mean, that's not said to be anything but a compliment to you guys because you made it so easy, right? So,
mhm,
but I liken the story a little bit because as I was noticing your covers in that match and you telling the story about it just now, it took me back to Stu Garvey watching me in my first RCW event and giving me feedback. And on my two counts, anytime I knew in my brain it was a false, I wasn't following through with that third count, right? I was just leaving it up there.
mm, yeah,
And it's
no,
again not a big thing, but it can be, right? Or it's that
yeah.
little, why not get as good as you can and perfect the craft? And
That's one of
so,
those things where, like, yeah, you have job as a referee, and obviously you don't want to, like, go into business for yourself, but ultimately, like, if the guy don't kick out, like, you got to maintain the reality of the situation, or
yeah,
the
I hope I
whatever.
never
Like,
have to
it's
do
it's
that.
it's
Yeah,
their job to kick out, and if they don't, that's
right.
not on you. And, like,
Yeah.
you
Well,
shouldn't
it
be
can be
getting
like
reamed out
I didn't say
for
one, two,
that.
three loud enough in a Bobby Sharp match one time, and like I thought he was
uh,
gonna give me a call, and he came over and he was like, "I can't hear you," right? But and then there was another
yeah.
match where Spade, because I flopped down and then I counted, and he likes to keep his eyes closed when he's getting pinned because he doesn't want to give
Oh,
away
he
that he's
does,
looking at
eh?
the ref. Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
and so my flop plus my one sounded like one and two in his head. So it's like those little things, right? You don't think of
like,
until you're so now I try to slide into my pins more and it's just always
yeah. It
perfecting
probably
that,
is a
right?
good
And
idea to do a vocal, like, 1,
yes, I
2,
do
like, so
now. I do
yeah,
now, but
so
yeah,
so that they know and realize. And, like, I love having, Ben referee my matches because he's so good at it.
he's
And,
the
like,
goat.
there'll
Yeah.
be times where, like, the match I had with TY recently, at the LPW clandestine last month,
Last
which
Thursday. Yeah.
honestly I think is probably the
Your
best
best
match
match
I've
ever.
I've had
It
since I
was.
came back from my return. And,
Yeah.
yeah, it's probably the best match I've ever had, to be honest with you. And, there was a point in that match, at the beginning, where we were doing some headlock takeovers, and my shoulders were down, and I didn't even realize it. But, Ben was like, 1, 2. I was like, oh shit, I better get my shoulder out there,
Yeah.
because, like,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
And oddly enough, when I got reamed out, it was because I didn't do what Ben did, and I, left his shoulders on the mat for 10 seconds because I missed that. So, little
yeah.
things. Yeah.
And
It looks easy on TV, doesn't it?
yeah, yeah, a lot everything looks easier than it is, for sure.
Yeah. Like,
Like,
I would have thought, if you'd have told me 3 years ago, "Oh, yeah, I could have wrestled a match. I could just walk in there without training and wrestle a match." How hard is it to tell a kid that he's stupid and his mom that she's ugly and get some heat and cheap heat and, get thrown around a little bit? But man, like
no,
it's a
probably
graceful dance, and your feet
maybe.
need to be exactly where your feet need to be, and your hands need to be exactly where your hands need to be, and only the best can improvise while they keep their steps, just like,
Yeah,
the
like, you
best
probably
dancers in
could
the world.
have a match, but it would be a shitty match. Like,
Oh, it'd be awful. Yeah, no, I need to,
yeah,
yeah, like roll out of the ropes and take a 9 count for the first 5 minutes like Andy Anderson, right? Like, just get
yeah.
cheap heat for 5
Well,
minutes and then
I
have
mean,
Goose
I
give me
just
the honk bottom and then pin me,
I my first match I ever had, I was about, well, let's just say this. I remember I moved to Edmonton on the 1st of September 2018, and my first ever match was October the 13th, 2018.
Oh,
So,
wow.
like, just less than a month later, and I was nowhere near ready. But like
Yeah,
it was way up north in Bonnyville and whatnot, and
yeah,
it was one of those situations where I had wanted to. I'm like you say, I just turned 40 this year, so I'm no a spring chicken. I wanted to wrestle for 20 years. I wasn't about to say no, I won't do it because
yeah.
I'm not ready. I was very much like, oh well, I'll backyard my way through this and do my
I mean,
best. And
did I think
yeah,
in my brain I was ready to ref my first match, Goose? Nope. But I'm not saying no, right? And that's
and
the only way you're gonna
there's
learn.
as and as somebody that's had significant amounts of training and now and like I continue to train, like I'm very much like I know that, like, okay, sure, like some people they did their 3 months of wrestling training and they graduated wrestling school and now they just wrestle on shows, and if that's
Mhm.
what you want to do, that's okay. But as far as I'm concerned, like I need to stay sharp and whatnot. Like
Perfect,
even the
right.
Oilers have practice. Um,
Absolutely.
so that's how I feel about that. But like as somebody that has done that and has trained now, and don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to say I'm some sort of like wrestling know-it-all or anything, but like there is a part of me that wishes I had not just been like, yeah, I'll do it and I'll backyard my way through it, because it would have been so much better if I had had like a full, you know, 5 months and some actual
Yeah.
confidence going into that and
Instead of
wasn't
trial
just
by
like,
fire and
I'm absolutely terrified right now. I hope I
yeah,
don't die like the
right.
entire time,
And
and
stepping back with your left foot and getting back suplexed on your head. Those type of things.
uh yeah, yeah, I mean that didn't happen to me. But yeah, no, it was one of those things. And then like I remember when I actually like I because I showed the video to the guy that was training me, of this match, and he was like, "Well, yeah, it wasn't very good, but it that was not the worst match I've ever seen." And so I took that as high praise and just stuck
Yeah.
with it, and like ultimately there is going to come a point where you have to just jump in and commit and do your
Yep.
best.
I mean,
Sometimes like
ultimately, I think
ready or not, here we come, you know,
yeah,
but
yep. I mean,
yeah,
you can't be scared in that business because then people
yeah,
just sense it and feel it anyways, right? So, like, I think you just gotta go for broke, but ultimately, that's pretty similar to the advice Boris gave me, I think. You weren't very good, Dash, but, I think I can work with you. You weren't awful, so,
yeah.
we'll
And I
strip you
think
down
you
and
I
build you
think
up,
you've
and
gotten really good lately. Like all like every time I get my match back from you, I think it's improving. Like your commentary is always getting better. Like
thank
you're
and
starting to get a sense of like the beats of it and whatnot. You know what I mean?
yeah, and it does take those reps, right? And learning how to follow Boris's lead, and when he's up, and when he's down, I'm down, and those types of things, like really following that energy and making sure that we're not on different levels, because it's weird if one
Mhm.
of us is screaming and the other guy's just talking like this, right? So like there's a
Yeah,
lot of chemistry and rapport that needs to be built. And we're talking shoot here. Like Boris has become a very good friend of mine, right? Like we hang out
yeah,
personally. We went to AEW together, and I consider him a friend. Like he's kind of a long lost brother. It's like we're these two stupid wrestling nerds that can't get enough of it. And ultimately, like through that friendship, I think we've built that chemistry and rapport on the mic too, because we don't have to manufacture the conflict anymore. Like I think when we went into this, we were going to be like, I'm blue and you're red, and I'm heel and you're face, and you know what I mean? It was just that's the way. But now we've hung out
but I think
enough. It's like
that's all
we
great
know we don't like
commentary
about each
teams are
other.
like
So
that, like
yeah,
Taz
yeah,
and Michael Cole are like that, and Jerry Lawler
yeah.
and Jim Ross are like that, like,
Heenan and
yeah,
Ventura.
they can
Yeah,
have a little bit of conflict on screen and stuff, but at the end of the day, these guys are probably getting in the same car to go back to the hotel room and maybe
for
even crushing a
sure.
couple of beers before they go to bed. Like,
Yeah. We
yeah,
thought we
like,
would, be opposites on everything, but I think like we kind of settled into this role where we're like buddies that disagree,
yeah,
right? And that's I like when guys cheat and he's Mr. Honorable, and that's probably not far off of real life, right? Like Boris is a
mhm,
real stand-up guy and a super professional and really good and super passionate, and loves what he does and puts in a ton of work. And I've been a lifelong smart ass, and like I had to filter myself my whole life to not be that heel or that smart ass. So now to be able to kind of give it a little bit, like hey, I apologize that I said your match might end up like a pet cemetery on the exposure show, but
I don't like. I try not to take that sort of stuff like
and I
super
hope nobody
personally.
does,
Like
right? Like,
I'm just like, oh, I'll play off of this, and I'll
good, yeah,
like again, like, you probably saw my post. I was like, oh, these guys are
yeah,
all
for
betting
sure I did,
against us, so like we have
yeah,
motivation
bet
here
on
now to
Quack,
go and win this matchup and make y'all look like a bunch of fools, right? So you're
yeah.
gonna do our best, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I love that, and I try to make sure that it's funny, like I almost try to make sure I talk to the faces in the locker room more often than not, because I want them to make sure they know the real me, and they're not I'm assuming that I am that dickhead on the mic sometimes or whatever, right? And I never
Mhm.
try to be insulting. Like I don't think you're getting anybody over by insulting them ever, right? Like
I mean,
you'd always
that's ultimately like, yeah, like you're not gonna if you just go out there and tell everybody I suck, then I might be like, well,
right.
well, honestly, I'd probably just be like, well, you get in the ring and do better, like,
Yeah.
like,
See you at training, bro.
yeah, yeah, like, uh,
But
um,
but you never say someone's, old and
yeah,
slow. You say they're experienced.
exactly, yeah,
Like there's
exactly, like,
always, there's always a
and
positive spin on it, even if you're the heel or the announcer or commentator or whatever, right? Like you'll notice when I throw a dig at you, it's usually like just making fun of the animal, the goose, not, the human Kyle Shaw. And then it's more or less like, oh, sandwiched with, but man, he gives it his all, and he's giving people a run, and there's
mhm.
always a way to, even
Yeah,
when Larry won the championship, like I've been
I
all
don't
over the
see a
Rads, but I
benefit to bringing people's like personal insecurities into it and stuff. Like,
totally,
like I have seen promos where people will cross the line and like mention something real personal and stuff. Like it's
yeah,
even happened to me where like I really
you've
don't
told me that
want
story. I know who you're
people
talking
bringing
about.
up like
Yeah,
the fact that I have
yeah,
like special needs or whatever in the ring, like that
right,
that doesn't
yeah,
doesn't need to be highlighted, and if it's highlighted then it needs to be highlighted in such a way that I'm overcoming and
right,
doing
yeah,
good by myself. But like if you're just going to
yeah,
say that to insult me, then yeah, like I'll let you get away with that once or twice, but
yeah.
eventually I'm gonna smack you. Like,
Well, I mean,
you
yeah,
know? Um,
fool me
so
once, shame on you, right?
Yeah. So, how do you actually like? Do you still have ambitions of maybe one day like getting into a match or something? Like, would you like to be in one of those like a match, like say like, like some of the stuff that Thaddeus has done, where he's maybe not an actual wrestler, but is involved in like a tag team match or something where he manages, but he's also like been put in a match and stuff.
Yes,
Or
I
would you like to, like, actually, like, finish your training up and, like, ha go on and have full matches as, like, an actual, like, in-ring competitor? Is that, like, something that interests you still?
I think I kind of have to cross that bridge when I get there. And I know that's a weak answer. Do I have ambitions of being in a ring someday? I've got dreams of being in a ring someday. Would I like to do what Thad does? Oh, hell yeah, I'd love to do what Thad does. There's no doubt
I
I'd
think
love to do what Thad
Thad is
does.
very talented.
Thad's super talented. Not only what he does out in the ring or around the ring, but in the locker room and one on one and booking.
Mhm.
And
He's another
he's
one of those guys that's just,
top
like,
notch
super
human.
s yeah, absolutely, like, very supportive. That's, like, the thing I love the most about LPW and clandestine wrestling, and, like, you even talked about, like, MRB and the training and
Yeah.
stuff, and, like, uh, it is very much, like, a lot of positive reinforcement going on,
Yeah.
and
You know
I
what?
find that that's the most effective way of getting better.
That's right.
So,
Like Spencer
that's
Love doesn't take resumes, but if he did, the number one check mark would be a good human.
yeah,
And
yeah,
after that, it's
he's
are you a good wrestler and are you know what I mean? Like
there's nobody in the locker room that has ever been, like, an asshole to me, you know?
not even a little. Not even a
Yeah,
little. Not even a
so
not even a dirty look, you know? Like it's truly like looking after one another in a family and everybody pitches in and like I said earlier, it's different and you can feel that it's
yeah.
different, you know, and I think that's a culture that Spencer's built and good on him. I hope that
I
he keeps
appreciate it
building it and
a lot,
yeah, I hope
yeah.
his reputation keeps building and building. But to circle back to your question, like,
Yeah, yeah, let me know
you know,
what are your ambitions?
when I see guys like you and MRB and Zoe and Barat and whoever at training, it's intimidating as hell. Like you guys are so
Oh,
good
well,
that
like,
it makes me
don't
realize
lump me in the with
how
that, though,
well,
that would,
whatever.
like
But everybody I've
I
been to
am the
training with,
same boat as you where, like, they'll go and they'll do all kinds of crazy stuff, and then, but I just, like, well, I gotta try it, and so
yeah.
you just put your best foot forward, and then the more you try things, like, the better you like, practice makes perfect,
Oh,
So, like,
for sure. I mean,
or
you
at
wouldn't be
least
doing
you'll
that
at
Hurricane
least get
Rana if you
better.
weren't at training.
Yeah.
Yeah,
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 yeah, like,
exactly.
that's one of those things where, if you had told me, like, 2 years ago that I would be doing that in matches, I'd have been like, "No,
Yeah,
no, don't be silly," you know?
right.
So
Totally. Or having a top rope match or anything like that. Not that
mhm.
that's happening, but it may have. So, I don't know.
I'm glad
Here's the
it's
thing is that
not, to be honest. Yeah.
when it comes to Love Pro Wrestling, like I respect the chair that I have and I cherish the fact that I've been given that opportunity and I don't want to waste efforts. Like it doesn't I don't really have ambitions to referee or manage or wrestle at Love Pro Wrestling because I want to
Mhm.
commentate. Like I love being beside Boris. I love that position that I have. So would I take that training and, maybe do an angle someday where, Kyle Shaw's chirping me from the ring and I leave the table and we go, do a program for a month? Sure. Like some sort of bucket list checking, run with LPW, sure. If I ever got good enough that I could get booked in another promotion, man, I'd sure consider it for sure. But I know how much work is ahead, and I really doubt my ability given my age. I don't know. You've seen me try, so I don't know if I've got it or not. MRB thinks I could make a run if I really put the work in, but it takes a lot of work, right? And So yeah, it's just
Yeah, that's the
picking and
thing, like,
choosing what your priorities are at the end of the day. So that's why I say I'll cross that bridge when I get there. But I do plan to come back to training at the end of the summer. Yeah.
I've all like you know, if I can do it, I'm pretty sure that most people can do it. But like also, like I do recognize that you do actually have to do it. Like
Yeah.
that's I think the thing that holds most people
There's no
back.
half ass.
And
You
like
can't,
you
right?
like it is one of those things too where people you have to learn like wrestling is very physical and like there's gonna be days where you're aching and you're sore and stuff, but
Yeah.
like it was kind of ingrained in me, whether it was like, you know, a proper thing or not, that like I know there's a difference between being injured and being hurt. And
Oh, that's a
I
hockey mentality
literally
too,
like
for sure.
I've wrestled in both situations. Like I straight up wrestled for a full year with a torn ACL and just
Yeah.
was like, well, they're already doing surgery. If I hurt it worse, they can just do a better
Yeah.
surgery. I don't,
Yeah.
but
Whatever.
like like and then eventually like I had that surgery and then they said you can't do this for a year. And at that point I was like, okay, well, I won't do it for a year then so that it heals
Yeah.
fully so that when I come back I'll be better than I was. And
Right.
I feel like that's kind of where I'm at now, is that like I'm glad I did take all that time and didn't try to rush back, even though I kind of did, and then ended up like hurting my other knee and then
Yeah.
had to take another break and whatnot. So I'm glad that things have kind of come to where they are, and my knees generally feel pretty good now. But like, yeah, like it's one of those things where like you can't just go, oh, I've my finger, like my finger is sore or my ribs are sore or whatever, and just
Or I had a
be
long
like,
day at work and I'm tired and
yeah,
I don't feel like
yeah.
running hard. Like you can't,
Yeah,
right? You
like
can't half-ass or
you won't be able
people get
to
hurt.
like you won't be able to make it if you don't actually like. I watched this thing and I'm gonna give somebody here credit that probably people don't expect me to, but I watched the MPW massive damage tip of the day thing on YouTube, and he was like, "Yeah, you got to show up and do it," and that's great. Like actually like a really good tip, is like you
Yeah.
actually do have to show up and do it. And like
Yeah.
yeah, so I mean, I don't want to brag about it, that I try to show up as much as I can. But like,
You're the hardest working I think you're the hardest worker at LPW. I'll say that right now.
oh, I mean, like
I
I'm
mean
not
that,
like
like,
fishing
genuinely, shoot.
for
No, and
comments
you
or whatever,
didn't,
but
but
like I'm like I
it
want to be good, and if I have to work twice as hard to be half as good, then I will work twice as hard, and then you know, so
I don't know if
that's what
you're
I'm
public
trying to
about how
do.
much weight you lost or the number, if you will, but
I
that
mean,
amount of dedication and work doesn't come without very, very hard
yeah,
work.
like that's like the hardest aspect of it, to be honest, is like, I mean, I can show up at training like no problem. I actually genuinely enjoy being in the ring and getting physical and
Yeah.
sweaty and
Yeah.
learning new
Yeah.
ways of
Me too.
moving and stuff like um but like the biggest challenge for me is that I also like I really like chocolate. you know, and I like fried greasy foods and stuff. So I do
And
sometimes
salt
have a
pebbles
bit of
and grass,
I
oh, no,
have
wait.
I I do sometimes have difficulty staying away from those
Yeah.
things.
Me
And
too, man.
sometimes I cut myself too much slack, but I also like I do believe if I don't cut myself any slack, then that's not good either, because then yeah, I'm just
Moderation.
gonna burn out right away. But yeah,
Yeah.
so like I say like that's the thing I'm struggling with the most right now, is like just maintaining a good diet and whatnot, especially because like I've always grown up a heavier guy and whatnot, and like if I do have like a bad situation or I feel down about myself, I will like eat
Oh,
for
yeah, I go straight to
emotional
food.
like
Yeah, me too.
therapy or whatever, and it's
Yeah.
yeah,
Straight to the
so
Slurpee.
yeah, well, I like I say,
That's my crutch.
No, mine, I really like Smarties and, like, Cadbury mini eggs and stuff, but, like, not, like, a reasonable amount of you know what I mean? I need to like, in order to get the
All
emotional,
the mini eggs.
fulfillment, yeah, Imma buying a big sack or 2 of them and just going through them. And so that's something I'm still struggling with, but, you know, as long as when I get on the scale, it doesn't say more than 200 pounds, I'm generally, I'm satisfied with that, just because, like,
Yeah.
most of my life, that's not been the case. Like, there's been like many years ago, I had like a weight loss surgery because I was so heavy. You know, I was
Oh, wow.
pushing 300 easily.
Mm.
And then, yeah, just like this year around, or last year around Christmas time, when I really first like started buckling down, I was at like 230. And yeah,
Mhm.
no, the last time I weighed myself, I was at 194, but I'd suspect maybe after like doing a weekend where I was on the road and
Yeah.
I was traveling and eating at
40
crummy
pounds is a lot of
places.
weight, bud,
I'm
you know?
yeah, I'm probably around the 198, 200 mark, and you know, it's just a matter of buckling down and actually doing that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
Like, you know, I going to the gym and whatnot is come sometimes pretty challenging for me. But
me
also,
too.
like I say, I love going to wrestling training, and like
Yeah, me too.
that is a workout. Like it just
Oh!
is.
Oh,
Like
I've hey, like, full shoot, I've puked. So, I mean, like,
oh, I've
it's not
puked numerous times,
like, it's
numerous
I
times.
I have
Yeah,
I haven't done that at, hockey in 5 years. I am not gonna push myself so hard at the gym that I puke,
yeah.
right? But I
Well,
will when Zoe's looking me in the eye and she's doing it too, right?
yeah. Well,
It's like if that
yeah.
person across the ring is gonna do it, then I'm gonna do it, and
I
it's
have literally, yeah, like it's getting like it's gotten better now because like I go so often and everything that
yeah.
like there's been times where we have other wrestlers have come in and they join in our cardio drills and like
Oh,
you know
gas.
they have to dip and I've made it all the way to the end and it
Yeah,
surprises me and yeah
yeah,
maybe I know how long they generally go and so I will pace myself to go at such a rate
yeah,
but also like I yeah the first couple of months there I was constantly having to go and puke and I would dip out and like MRB would say, "Hey, like if you need to dip, you can, Kyle, because like you're not the kind of guy that's gonna just dip because you're kind of tired. You're
right.
dipping because it's like a safety concern for you, or
Yeah,
like you're worried you're not gonna be able to hold somebody
you're
on
gonna
and you might hurt
yeah,
them, you know.
yeah,
But like, cause like I'm notorious for just like I'll go to the bathroom, I'll puke, I'll splash some water on my face, and 5 minutes later I'll just be back in the ring and I won't have even mentioned it to anybody
yeah.
just because like I don't want to be, you know, excluded. So
Yep, 100%. Yeah,
yeah,
no,
yeah. But
same boat
it
for
like I
sure.
say, it is a workout and whatnot.
Like, I went and saw Rich for 2 months before I would even step foot in clandestine.
Yeah, and that's
Like,
that's like
I
I
wanted to be strong before I got there. I was not gonna be
I'm
embarrassed, you know what I
very,
mean?
very
Especially at my age.
grateful to Rich because he sent me the, workout plans and stuff, but I'm also, like, super intimidated by Rich. He's a really approachable guy and stuff, but, like, just me personally, especially because, like, I do have, like, a desire to be, like, more physically fit and whatnot.
Yeah,
I'm just super intimidated by him. I actually, I've, like, paid him for a couple of, like, actual one-on-one sessions but have
yeah.
just been so scared to pull the trigger and be like and actually message him and be like, "Okay, let's meet up this week." Because I'm so scared that we're gonna meet up and he's gonna be like, "Oh, man, you're the shits." You know, like I have such a
Don't
great amount
confuse Rich the heel rat and Rich the personal trainer because, like,
yeah.
I am paying Rich. I am a current customer, and
Oh,
I've
money
gotten to
well
know
spent,
him.
100%. He's like, you
Yeah,
could
for
see
sure. I've
the
gotten to know
arguably
him, and
after. thing right there in the
He is
corner.
super approachable. He's super professional, but like Rich is maybe the passion. I said you're the hardest worker. Rich is maybe the most passionate guy in that locker room,
Yeah.
right? And I think sometimes when you're passionate about something, you have a certain level of expectations.
Mhm.
And Rich works his ass off in the gym, and Rich is, maybe also let's give him props. He's probably one of the hardest workers there as well, right? He's working 3 promotions, 4 promotions. He's a personal trainer. He's constantly doing physical activity.
Yeah.
Um, but Rich is just like he's
He's
kind of a
yeah,
personal person
amazing
too, right?
athlete.
Like he's got a bit of a shell you got to break down first, I think. And hell, there's nothing wrong with that, right? Like I think
Yeah.
you gotta. Some people just give you respect. With Rich, you got to earn it, and there's nothing wrong with that. I don't think.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, I am looking forward to eventually when I do finally work
Ah,
up the
just go,
courage
man. You'll
to do
surprise
like
yourself.
yeah, and I'm
He
sure
knows what
that
he's
I'll learn
doing.
some stuff and that, hopefully like he'll be able to like remotivate me and whatnot too, so that like
Yeah.
I'll be less like, oh, I need to go home and eat a fuck
He's
ton of candy
excellent at
because I feel bad about
yeah,
myself.
no.
Yeah.
No, he's been more than a physical trainer, honestly, man. Like I feel like he's been a big brother sometimes because he's helped me with like life coach type things, right? Like here's
Mhm.
not only is he looking out for me in wrestling, he's also training me. He's helping rework my mind with positive speak. And we talked about food being a psychological thing earlier. He's really good at that advice and understands it. And he's really forgiving. Like he broke me down in a way that was like I always had this thing where I thought I had to be perfect to do it, right? I have full diet, full
Mhm.
workout every day. And well, if I can't give that level of commitment, then why even start? Right. And he kind of
Yeah.
really broke me
Yeah.
down where just eat a good breakfast every day. Do that for 2 weeks. Then after that, eat a
Mhm.
good breakfast and a good lunch. And just do that for 2 weeks. And who cares what you eat at night? Because you're
Mhm.
forming that habit. So he's
Yeah.
been a big help all along. And I think when he does that assessment, he can find out if you're a 3 or a 4 or a 5, and he's great at turning a 4 into a 5 or a 5 into a 6 or a 6 into a 7 or and he's gradually worked me up, and I'm really appreciative of him and everybody
Yeah,
at Planet Wrestling for
I saw somewhere a little while ago online. It was like a before and after shot of you with like a shirt off and stuff, and I don't want to sound weird, but it was really impressive. Like you can tell, like you've put in a lot of work and you've gotten more defined and stuff, and that's one of those things where like yeah I feel like I'm getting better at being athletic and stuff, but I still would be
oh yeah.
mortified to take my shirt off in front of people, you know what I mean? uh
Yeah, well, Rich
so
posted it. He asked if he could. I was very hesitant, to be honest, but you know what? Like, if it inspires somebody else, then great. And I
mhm.
don't know. I don't need to fish for compliments. I don't care at this point in time in my life, right? But it's nice when you get them. So yeah,
Mhm.
it is hard work, especially at our age, right? It's a commitment. It's willpower. And the hardest part at our age too, dude, is that you got to keep it up because as soon as you quit, you just go right back to shit, right? So it's like
Yeah.
you can put in all the hard work to lose the weight. And in my case, people kept saying to me, like, oh man, you lost a lot of weight. And actually, the fact of the matter was, I gained 10 pounds. It's just,
Yeah.
it was in better places, right? And so I don't know. To keep that, you got to keep the work. You can't just put the work in to get there and then stop, right? So, like, now this is a
Mhm.
lifestyle.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And then, like I say, like I'm struggling with it, but I have not given up. There's no chance I'll do that because like I'm it's all because I want to be good at wrestling. And so if
Yeah.
that's what it takes for me to be good at wrestling is, you know, maybe eating, you know, excessive amounts of candy a lot
Well,
less often than I normally do, then that's what I'll
right.
do. And I can't
Well,
say I'll never I can't like I'm not gonna promise that I'll never eat chocolate again because it's just unrealistic and whatnot. But like,
Well, it's
I don't
motivating though too, right? Like
yeah.
all that hard work has got you is like I won't talk about your winning record, Goose, but it's gotten you
Yeah.
title matches, it's gotten you main event matches, it's gotten you mid card matches.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm in a
you've
title
wrestled
match
MRB,
on
you've
Thursday. I mean, this is going to come out after that
yeah,
does, but I've
yeah.
actually they're putting me in a match against Mars, a specialist for the clandestine wrestling belt on Thursday, and I like literally like there's a ton of pressure, but like all Mars is so good that like I know it's going to be good, and
Yeah.
you know, and I want it to be so good, and I'm so willing to like go out there and do whatever it
Mars
takes to
makes it
make
look
it
so
good.
easy, hey?
But
Yeah.
like
Yeah, for
it is
sure.
a high pressure situation because I
Sure.
legitimately have not been in a main event one-on-one championship match before. Like I've been in main events, but like they've always been like 10-man tags or battle royals, and I've been in like title matches, but they've never been the main event of the show. Like they've always been followed by something else, you know, and
Even when
then
you held the title in BC, you never had a main event match, a title match?
see what happened in BC is I beat Marty Sugar, and then at the end of that match, Rick Jules came in and he attacked
Oh,
Marty,
was it
and
a cash in?
Marty challenged him to like a no DQ match there on the spot. So even though I beat Marty and I won the belt and stuff, they still had another match after
Oh,
ours. And then the next night when I lost the belt to Rick Jules, we were on like I think right before intermission or something. It wasn't like
okay.
the main event of the show. And like you know, I'm not trying to like make that out to be like it was any less important to me or anything, but like
Right.
this I
Yeah,
just feel
title
like
wins a
this is
title
a
win.
huge show of faith in me. And
Yeah.
my
Yeah.
biggest fear is disappointing. You know, I don't want to disappoint Spencer. I don't want to disappoint
Yeah.
Michael. I don't want to disappoint Mars. I don't want to disappoint myself. You know, like
Yeah.
so there's a high pressure situation, but I'm really looking forward to it. I just got done today. I went to the because it's going to be a honk core match, which is like I
Yeah.
asked Michael what it was, and he said, "Oh, it's like it's a hardcore match with like bird themed weaponry." And I was like, "Okay,
Amazing.
cool." So like I went and got some stuff. Like I got a big sack of bird seed. I figure if I empty
Oh
that out
boy.
onto the ring and we bump each other into the bird seed like it's thumbtacks or something, it might be great. And I got some like tin geese that you could use. I got a big plastic flamingo on the end of a stick. I got a
Oh,
couple of like
amazing.
turkey trays. I actually I bought a bucket of chicken from Kentucky Fried Chicken solely so I could get a bucket of like a KFC bucket to use in this matchup. Like it's all going to be ridiculous nonsense. And I actually like I asked MRB at training on Monday. I said, "Hey, is it okay if we like can I give him a pile driver on a carton of eggs or something? You know, get all eggs all in our hair and stuff." He was like, "No, we don't want to get egg gunk all over the ring." And then I was like,
But you
"Well,
could maybe do it on the
yeah."
stage.
I said, "Can I do it on the stage?" And he said, "Well, as long as you don't get any on in the ring." So there's a part of me that
Or on
wants
the
to do that
equipment.
as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But like, yeah. So like, it's just going to be ridiculous nonsense. But I also like, I am hoping that, you know, before we get into all the absolutely ridiculous, feather pluckingly insane gimmicks that me and Mars can actually do
Yeah.
some wrestling and like and show that we we both have some decent skills, you know.
Yeah, for
So
sure. I mean, your character is so creative, man. Like you're so it's such a it's a brilliant character. It's a brilliant
I
character. Like you
appreciate
can go
that.
so many different ways with it. Um I was a front row seat to it at the last RCW show when you were wrestling KB6. Like those four guys in the corner there. I don't know if you knew that or not, but that was the first wrestling show they'd ever been to.
Oh, solid.
And when you were coming out honking, I mean, I'm the ref. I'm just standing there trying to not be noticed. So like
Mhm.
I'm always looking around the crowd and watching the reactions and see who's getting over. And you were over. Like you were super over because those guys I think were just straight up impressed with your character and like how right. And then you're like signal for the people's honk or the honk bottom, and then you're gonna do duck duck goose. And every
Yeah.
single time I could go, they would be like, "Oh, duck duck goose, that's brilliant," you know. And I don't know. Yeah, so kudos to you. I think it's my second favorite character in LPW. I have to be honest, but it's brilliant
That
nonetheless for
I
sure.
I appreciate the love. It is one of those things where people told me it was dumb and stupid, and I was like, "Okay, cool." But,
Hmm.
like, there's a part of me that it is pretty keenly aware that, like, I'm usually getting a really good response every time I go out the curtain, almost, you know?
Yeah,
Like,
you're
the
almost never not over. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? Like there's honk
yeah,
chant. It's such a fun thing to do. Who doesn't want
yeah.
to? I mean, me on commentary, I don't want to honk, but everybody else in the building, who doesn't want to honk, right? Like I mean, it's
Yeah.
fun.
It's
It's a
yeah,
fun character. It's a happy character, but then like I love when you go to your Mick Foley dark side too. Like heel heel honk is pretty freaking terrifying. So, I like when you go to that place. So I don't
yeah,
know. Yeah, Pride Full Shoot is my favorite character. I think maybe in all time of all promotions of any wrestling ever. That character is brilliant to me. The way that he can
yeah.
go back and forth and like teleports in his promos and he's like Pride's so creative, right? And then with Thad beside him being that brilliant mind we talked about, like it works so well for me.
I
I love that
I
I can be a heel and cheer for that character.
I have a lot of, admiration for Pride as well. I think he's really great, and I think that one day I really hope that me and him get to be, like, in a storyline or something 'cause we could absolutely do some amazing stuff, I think,
Yeah.
if he would like to wrestle with the old Canadian Goose,
Hey.
because like it's I've wrestled with some alternate personalities before as well,
Hmm.
so I think that me and Pride we could actually do some really really fun stuff, and that's one of the reasons like I brought him up in my promo for the match with Mars was like
Hmm.
we'll put this in the on the back burner so that people know, oh, the Canadian Goose and Pride, they don't like each other, you know.
Yeah.
But the truth
Yeah.
of the matter is that I said that because I want to wrestle Pride.
Would you rather wrestle Jack or would you rather wrestle Pride?
uh, I mean, I don't know because like
Oh no.
I, yeah,
Hence the
I
brilliance of his
like
character. You know what I
I
mean?
like
Like,
as a baby face, I want to wrestle Pride, but also like
right.
I don't like I like to be a heel sometimes. I really do enjoy like, when we go to Drumheller, for some reason, all over Alberta, I'm a baby face, but when I went to Drumheller for RCW, they were like, "Oh yeah, you're gonna wrestle Steve Wild tonight." The most heelish heel of all people. Like this guy is like legit a heel in real life, and for some reason they were
And
like, "Yeah,
enjoyable.
he'll be the baby face tonight. You be the heel." Um, okay, sure.
Drumheller's bizarro world.
I
It was,
Yeah,
man. I
but
was with you that night. Like,
and like my second match back was against him in Drumheller, and it was one of those ones where I was really hesitant and nervous about it, and then they brought me back for, like, another match in Drumheller with him, and at that point, I was like, "Okay, well, I'm the heel and he's the babyface," and, like, last time, like, he may or may not have gotten a "Goose is gonna get stretched" chant going, and to the point where I was, like, so intimidated, like, "Oh, no, is he gonna, like, actually kick my ass or something?"
right,
And
right.
then so this second match in Drumheller happened, and I was like, "Well, if that's what's gonna happen, then I'm gonna give him a reason to want to kick my ass." And I just went full bore into it. And I also like I didn't hold back on any of my stuff when I went in there and wrestled him. So like I was like, if I'm it won't be the first time I got my ass whooped. So
Yep.
just yeah. So I
Won't be the
I I
last either, I'm sure,
yeah,
right?
yeah, and then, like, even like, I've actually really enjoyed Drumheller, like, that you were ring announcing the last one where I wrestled Squig, and, me and Squig have had numerous, numerous matches, before, and
Yep.
I think that the one we had the most recently in Drumheller was probably the best one we've had.
As far
Um,
as crowd reaction, for sure. I don't know if I watched your entire match. I might have been in the back for part of it, but I know your guys' crowd reaction was awesome. And, you insulting all the fossils, and, the Drumheller was setting records, and it was like you done your homework on the town, right? To cut that promo. So I mean
yeah.
you cut them to their core, you went right after what was in the news, and I don't know, it worked well. It was good.
Yeah, and, like, I just thought that, like, I don't know, there was just something about that match with Squig where I
Yeah.
think, honestly, it was last time I did wrestle in Wild Rose, I had a match with Squig, and it was a hardcore match, and it was absolutely terrible. Like, it was
Ah,
just such a bad match that I was legitimately, like, I was embarrassed that I had not been able to have, like, a good match with him, and so when we went to Drumheller, I was bound and determined that that was not gonna happen again,
right.
and yeah, and we actually had a
Oh,
good one and whatnot, and a lot of it did come down to, like, MRB's training and stuff, and, like, just like one of the things that I think a lot of like young wrestlers, and if you continue to train, you'll learn about this too, is that you don't have to panic when you're not doing anything, right? Like that's been
right.
a thing for me. Like when I'm putting the heat on somebody, like if I'm not actually doing something, I'm going, oh no, I'm not doing anything. But it's like, no, you just sometimes that's what you have to do. You hit a guy and then
Yeah.
talk some shit and like mean
Let
mug a
moments
little
breathe.
bit. Yeah, yeah, and then go back to it and just do it in a way that's effective and stuff, and I like
Like,
MRB pointed out to me, like, he was like, "Hey, like, I don't wanna give away all the magic, but at the beginning of every single Roman Reigns match, Roman tackles the guy and then stands there with his arm in the air and his finger pointed to the sky for a full minute." Like a full minute just doing nothing but standing there mean mugging and like it makes the matches better, it's not like
yeah,
nobody's going, oh come on, do something, like, but
yeah,
like when you're in there and you're wrestling and you don't know these things, like you do, like you're in your head, you're like, if I'm not doing something, like I suck, and you start like I start panicking and stuff, but
yeah,
the once I've figured that out, like, I think that's really, really helped me. So, anyway, Dash,
absolutely.
we've been going, over an hour here, and we've just kind of been talking about, the basic stuff, but, like, is there anything that you would like to plug? Would you like to plug your podcast or whatnot, before we, amscray here?
That's great. The pig Latin's out. Or you know what, honestly, like just heavyhockey.com, heavy hockey on YouTube is where you can find all of our work as far as, the hockey articles and podcasts and Edmonton Oilers talk. As far as wrestling goes, found in the same place. As far as socials go, I'm at Dash in the Park and pretty much everywhere. Um, and just enjoy being Dash around Love Pro Wrestling. So you know what? Come out and watch Dash and Goose and the rest of the gang at Love Pro every month. And you can also find Goose and Matthew Slaps out at the RCW shows. And yeah, I think that pretty much covers it. But thanks for having me on, man. I really appreciate this, and I cherish every chat we have.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, we'll have more as well. Like, I appreciate you coming on here and being my guest on Monday Night Shaw. I did the whole series I did on Totally Arctic Wrestling, and then took a couple of extra weeks off there, just because. Honestly, it's because like it's really hard to schedule people around my training and stuff because like
Yeah,
training begins at like 6:30 and ends at like 9:30, and then I have to walk home and it takes like an hour and a half to walk home. So like nobody, I'm not trying to get people to come on here and podcast with me at 11 o'clock at night. And
right.
also like people have jobs and they can't just come on and do it before 4 o'clock usually. So I have to find a day where I'm neither wrestling nor training, and those are few and far between, like, thankfully.
But
So
Tuesday is one of them.
yeah, Tuesday, at least this Tuesday is. I tried to get booked on Wild Rose tonight,
Oh.
but they did not require my services. I'm really hoping I do get to go back there. They had the shows that they had this weekend. Um, yeah, they had some talented guys on there. There's one fella, Josh Cadwell from BC. I'd really love to wrestle with him. His
Cool.
gimmick was so great. It was such like he had like such Kenny Powers energy.
Oh, nice.
It was
Oh,
fantastic.
interesting.
And then
One of my favorites.
there was another, young fella named, Inferno. Josh Cadwell, I talked to him, and we apparently were in a battle royal together in Big West Wrestling in Kelowna at one
Oh,
point, and I chopped the crap out of him during this battle royal, apparently. So, but he had a completely different look at the time, so I wasn't even really aware. I thought it was
make a
a
connection.
different person, but, yeah, no, so I'd really like to wrestle him. I'd really love to wrestle with the new cruiserweight champion, Jordan Aries, and they had another fella, Inferno out. He was doing all kinds of crazy wild lucha stuff, which, I do kind of I like I say, it's maybe not my wheelhouse, but I do like to bust it out every once in a while just so people are like,
Mhm.
wait, did it Canadian Goose just do a Hurricane Rana? What? Yeah, so I'd like to wrestle with him too. There's lots of people in Wild Rose that I really love to wrestle with, but I'm not going to use the rest of this time for me to try and convince the folks at Wild Rose that that they should actually let me wrestle again,
Before
even though I had a
before we
horrible
sign
match
off,
with
can I
Quinn.
get booked?
Yeah, yeah. But anyway, yeah, like Dash said, Love Wrestling happens last Friday of the month. Clandestine is last Thursday of the month. Clandestine is also running mini camps. There's going to be one this weekend, which, of course, this isn't going to air until after that. But yeah, next time there's one of those, make sure you sign up and come give it a go and whatnot. Because like you won't know if you want to do it until you actually do it. And in the words of Massive Damage, you actually have to show up. So yeah, so
Yeah.
show up, yeah, and come and wrestle with us. It's a lot of fun.
Well, maybe see you there this weekend.
At the training, yeah, I should be there. Are you coming to the mini camp this weekend?
I might drop by. I was gonna come and see if I could pop in and at least watch for a little bit for sure, but
Yeah, are
I
you
don't know
going to
if I'll
RCW?
participate or not at this point in time. Yeah, I'm booked for RCW as well. So I'll see
Oh,
you
okay,
Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and potentially
yeah.
even more than that. So
The mini camp
and I'll
is
give you a ride home.
Is
How's that?
Saturday, Sunday. Oh, well, I'm actually fishing for a ride from the mini camp to the RCW show because if I have to take the bus, then I might not be able to go to
Ah,
the mini camp. But
we'll talk.
if you
Yeah,
come to the mini camp, then I can get a ride to the RCW show straight from there. That'd be awesome. Uh,
you know how to
yeah.
find me.
Anyway,
We'll chat.
yeah, we don't need to put this all on the active live recording of the podcast. So I'm just gonna end the broadcast now, and I'm just gonna say thank you one more time, Dash. I really do appreciate you and your commentary and your refereeing and your ring announcing and everything. I think you like I say you have give a shit, and I appreciate that a whole lot.
Thanks, Goose. You too, brother.